I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 29th, 2019. At this time, I invite the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you. Minister Smith.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roach. Good morning, and greetings to all gathered here this morning. Honorable colleague ministers, the Department of Communications, members of the press, as well as those who are listening and viewing via radio, television, and social media. Good morning, Sualiga. Yesterday, I joined our brothers and sisters on the northern side in their celebrations of the abolition of slavery. Be reminded that we, on the southern side, hold our celebrations on July 1st each year. For this year, the Department of Culture is hard at work with putting together once again a splendid program for all of us. So mark your calendar for that date, Monday, July 1st, and plan for the time to be spent in family-oriented cultural activities. I'd like to touch on the school safety plans that are ongoing. According to the Safety and Emergency Guidelines, all schools are required to have safety and emergency teams in place. As we are about to officially enter the 2019 hurricane season on June 1st, I'm proud to announce that all schools have installed such teams, and the Student Support Services Division, the SSSD, has called a meeting with the chair of the teams to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season and to discuss training of the teams. Meetings were also held with the school board representatives to update them on the progress with regards to the school safety plans. My ministry has been making considerable strides towards comprehensive school safety within the last year. The SSSD started this process in 2014, but it gained national focus after the passing of Hurricane Irma in 2017. All schools are required to have school safety and emergency plans that also incorporate psychosocial considerations. 23 of our schools have submitted safety and emergency plans to the SSSD, with some of the plans being tweaked in accordance with the guidelines. All schools are requested to develop standard operating procedures, SOPs, for 3 emergencies. Hurricanes and fire were mandatory, and the third, chosen by schools, were either flood, earthquake, or tsunami. School safety plans will have to be reviewed annually, and the SOPs will have to be drafted for all emergencies. The Safety and Emergency Management Committee, the SEMC, will continue to prioritize this process, and the further training of school teams is currently being planned. The Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport would like to thank the schools for their commitment to this process. UNICEF Netherlands for their support, and the Safety and Emergency Management Committee for continuing to champion school safety here on St. Martin. With regards to the construction at the St. Martin Vocational Training School, construction has resumed at the St. Martin Vocational Training School. The contractor and his team are back on the job, working towards the completion of the 4 new classrooms. The goal is to have these classrooms ready for the beginning of the new school year, August 2019. We also saw in the news that there was some problems with the Spanish exams, and so there was that discrepancy regarding the Spanish exams being administered earlier than they were scheduled. The Division of Exams and the Inspectorate are taking necessary measures to ensure that this matter is corrected. Please be informed that this is a very unfortunate situation, as the Inspectorate has decided that the initial Spanish exam, Eerste Tijdvak, has been deemed invalid. Unfortunately, all PSVE, PBL, PKL students will have to sit the Tweede Tijdvak, which takes place on Thursday, June the 20th, 2019. And for those students who do not pass this resit exam, they will be given the opportunity to do the exam again in August 2019. All school boards have been informed duly about the decision and about the first resit date. Congratulations to the Dynamics Sporting Club for winning 29 medals at the 6th Annual Starters Invitational Track and Field Championship in Anguilla this past weekend. Coach Abdul Watli and all the athletes, you did extremely well, and we are very proud of you. Now, tomorrow, Thursday, May 30th, is Ascension Day, and as such, schools will be closed from Thursday, May 30th, through Friday, May 31st. Parents, I encourage you to make the extra effort to spend some quality time with your children as they head into a very long weekend. Thank you for watching and for listening, and I'll be available for any questions that you may have. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Emil Lee, to address you. Minister Lee.
Good morning, St. Martin. Good morning, colleague ministers. Good morning to the media in attendance and to those listening by radio, television, or internet. Forgive me, I have a bit of a cold today, so if I'm a little stuffy, apologies. I have two topics to update on. Just last night, we had an opportunity to sit with the Mental Health Foundation. So the Ministry of VSA, so that's with representatives of the Department of Public Health, with the cabinet members, and with myself. We met with the board and with the director of the Mental Health Foundation. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss a number of structural issues. Of course, finances is always a discussion in every agenda point. So discussing the finances, the approval process for permitting of specialists, the Mental Health Foundation's concern in particular about a worldwide shortage on psychiatrists and the challenges it presents to them in terms of being able to source the psychiatrists that they need to service the community. As well as a plan on updating the mental health plan, the National Mental Health Plan, which was actually from 2014 to 2018. So I would term the meeting to be extremely constructive, very open, very candid. There were a number of outcomes out of that meeting. Number one, as we discussed the finances, it's good to point out, and this was already covered in the media, that the SNV and the Mental Health Foundation recently executed an agreement where, number one, they will make sure that all arrears are paid up to date, and also they have an agreement for the next 2 years. And so one of the issues mental health mentioned in the past is that they had this annual negotiations, and the negotiations took some time. So I'm very happy to hear that there's a 2-year agreement which gives them some stability. So I think that from the financial perspective, there's clarity in terms of how the foundation can move forward. We agreed that we would establish a committee similar to the Health Tripartite Committee that's in place. This was what was put in place to really guide the development of the hospital and cooperation between the hospital, the ministry, and SNV in terms of how we're moving forward with the development of our healthcare sector, focused on the hospital, of course. And I think that committee structure has worked extremely well. And I think a similar structure focused on mental health or psychosocial development in our community, I think would also be beneficial. So we agreed that we would establish a committee Number one, with a couple of topics to update our mental health plan, developing an overall strategic framework, reviewing legislation related to mental health and psychosocial care. And this would also include the issues surrounding the development of a new mental health care facility. As you know, we recently submitted to the steering committee a proposal for a facility, and as it ties into the broader strategy for psychosocial care in St. Martin. The idea is that the committee would have a number of representatives from the mental health care providers, as well as the insurance company, of course, representation from the Ministry of VSA, as well as representation from Justice. As we know, there are some issues that overlap with other ministries, and we felt that a representative from Justice would be helpful in that committee structure. Another committee that we're forming is a committee to review the process of the approval for medical specialists. You know, this is a complaint or a concern that we hear from all types of healthcare providers, the process around the permitting for specialists. Again, we've stressed that we are obliged to follow the law, you know, that we have obligations, legal obligations, and quality care of the specialists' obligations. We need to ensure that the people are coming that are capable and qualified to provide the services that the country needs. That said, we also do recognize that, as is the case very often with government, the process can be bureaucratic and can take some time, and in our healthcare sector, we need to find ways, as with others as well, how do we streamline the process? So we have a committee that we're in the process of forming. We're in the process of hiring a legislative writer to help with the committee in terms of, from a legal perspective, what can be done on the short term, medium, and long term in terms of making the process fit the needs of the community, but as well the realities of St. Martin. And the third point that we agreed on is improving the communication. I think that, as is often the case, a lot of times when things, when you look at the relationships between people, almost always the first thing you need to address is making sure that there's a proper communication between the different entities. And so, you know, we reviewed some of the discussions that have gone in the past, and we reviewed, you know, where some of the bottlenecks in terms of communications have happened and how we can streamline that process. So I'm very pleased with the discussions that we had yesterday. And I'd like to point out also that this works very much in agreement with the agreement that we just recently signed in Bonaire regarding cooperation between our kingdom partners, right? So this was recently at the healthcare conference in Bonaire. Mental health legislation was certainly one of the topics that St. Martin set as a priority, and all of the all the countries in the Dutch Caribbean have similar issues in terms of finding sufficient amount of specialists and how do we get that approval process to work rapidly. So again, with the legislative assistance of the Netherlands and a template from Curaçao and a vision from the committee, the final product is something that we're sure everybody will be happy with. The second topic I'd like to touch on is the St. Martin Skills Training Foundation. As you know, I think this is a prime example of excellent cooperation, a public-private partnership between private sector and government. I think that the project's a role model for disaster recovery. As a matter of fact, in our conversation recently with the group from World Bank, we're very proud of it, and we think that as we evaluate the program, as we look at how it was set up, we believe that this is a solution that could easily be shared with other countries. In other words, as we look at disaster recovery around the world, the project is easily a model for others to follow, and certainly for the country. We've done so much work in terms of development of this program. It should be a program that you could just pull off the shelf in the event if you have another disaster, so that we've worked out so much already, which should really mean that the lead time for implementation of a program like this again in the future should be much shorter. The project offers training to the community. It offers a stipend. It offers health insurance for the people that participate. The project's aimed at improving the employability of affected beneficiaries and strengthening the social protection system, social protection system's capacity for shock response and protection from the poor. The program targeted, in particular, the underemployed and unemployed. Remember that after Hurricane Irma, many of our hospitality businesses were badly damaged and had to reduce the hours for the workers dramatically. And the workers, of course, obviously had a gap in terms of their income and how they would make ends meet. And so this program really came about as how can we provide stability to the workforce, in particular the unemployed and underemployed. And we delivered training in construction, hospitality, first aid, culinary, and casino. The St. Martin Training Foundation and USM recently signed an agreement where they're going to start also adding English courses as a second language as of May 20th, so just recently. And they're also going to, in June, begin with a culture and history course as well. So we'll keep on expanding the range of courses that are available. And some statistics, I know that this is always interesting. A total of 1,077 individuals were trained so far, and a total number of 1,241 certificates have been issued. So it is possible for students to take multiple courses, which is why you may have some students, which is why you have more certificates than the number of individuals who participated. And to give you a breakdown, 448 students were certified in hospitality, 98 in culinary, 85 in construction, 214 in first aid, 345 in customer service, and 51 in casino technical. Of course, the construction courses, 90% of the construction students found work after their training. I think that's a great model for success. It's something that we should all celebrate. And the majority, so 95% of the underemployed persons who were trained in the hospitality sectors have already returned back to their work. So in other words, after Irma, they had a drastic reduction in their hours. This course provided an opportunity for them to improve their skills and receive income and maintain their health insurance. And they've bridged that gap, and 95% of those individuals have gone back to their work. And anecdotally, the feedback that we hear from the hospitality sector is they see the difference. They see the difference in a number of ways. They see the reviews from their customers. So in other words, from a customer satisfaction perspective, they see the difference in the training. And they're also reporting that the individuals who've gone through the course are also geared more for promotion within the company. So they see that the individuals who participated in the course are more likely to be promoted within the organizations, right? So as these businesses have come back online and they're restaffing and restructuring their businesses, they're finding that the students who went through the skills training program are more likely to be promoted into higher functions than they were originally. So again, great story, great feedback. The other thing is, for the students who were in the process of taking a course but had to return back to work or return back to work, still have the opportunity to complete those courses to obtain their certificates. So again, a nice thing, and the feedback is the students see the value of the courses and indeed are making use of the opportunity to complete their training programs. And most importantly, there's still an opportunity for people who are looking for employment. So what we've seen is that the percentage of people taking the courses who were underemployed, that number has reduced because they've returned back to their jobs. And we're seeing an increase in the number in the course of unemployed who are participating. And there's still more room for people to participate. So as I started out with, the good news is the course is scheduled to end in 2019, and actually an agreement's been made to extend the course for another 6 months. So there's an opportunity still for people to participate. We believe it's a great opportunity for those. And actually, again, anecdotally, when speaking to people, we understand that the difference that the amount of the stipend has made in terms of their lifestyle and being able to make ends meet has been tremendous. So if you're interested in participating, if you're unemployed or underemployed, meaning 3 days of work or less, they're welcome to participate. They will receive a stipend and health insurance. And for those who are interested in participating, they can contact the St. Martin Training Foundation directly at 520-7574. That's 520-7574. Or they can contact the Labor Office directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Lee, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, the Honorable Stuart Johnson, to address you. Minister Johnson.
Members of the press, colleagues in the Council of Ministers, persons viewing via Facebook or listening via subsequent broadcast, people of St. Martin, good morning. Port St. Martin was chosen as the best cruise port in the Caribbean Journal Travelers' Choice Awards 2019. The Caribbean Journal is the world's largest website covering Caribbean travel. The story can be found at www.caribjournal.com. The 2019 edition of the Caribbean Journal Travelers' Choice Awards celebrates the best in Caribbean travel, as chosen by their loyal readers. According to Caribbean Journal, thousands of Caribbean Journal subscribers voted in this year's awards, selected from a highly competitive field of nominees by Caribbean Journal's editorial staff. I'm elated with this news, and once again it strongly signifies that the destination is back in business. We are a resilient people leading a resilient destination. Due to the hard work, diligence, and determination towards our visitors, the destination once again reaps the fruits of its hard work via the voices of our readers of Caribbean Journal in its Travelers' Choice Awards. Congratulations once again to the people of St. Martin, as this accolade is a result of the continuous contributions made during the past 18 months plus to bring back our destination back online. We have done it once again, and we all can be proud of our achievements. The Airlift Conference returns to St. Martin. Residents and business enthusiasts, particularly those with the interest in the aviation industry, are encouraged to sign up for the 4th annual Caribbean Aviation Meetup Conference, which will be held here on St. Martin on June 11th to June 13th. The conference was successfully held here 2 years ago before the island was hit by the hurricanes, and will be hosted this year on St. Martin once again, and supported by several major local and international companies. The importance of the event is being promoted by the Department of Civil Aviation and Maritime Service under the Ministry of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunications. St. Martin is actively engaged in redeveloping its tourism product post-Hurricane Irma, and the aviation industry, and in particular, the reconstruction of the Princess Juliana International Airport to include U.S. pre-clearance is paramount. Considering the importance of air transport to the future of the tourism economy, forums such as the Caribbean Aviation Meetup provides our people with access to vital information that will aid in the redevelopment of the Princess Juliana International Airport to meet and improve our aviation standards. The Caribbean Aviation Meetup, CaribAvia, is a result and solutions-oriented communication platform for stakeholders of airlift, which are the aviation and tourism industries. The conference venue is the Simpson Bay Resort, where the sessions on the first and third day, as well as the social events, will take place. On the second day, the meetings will be held at the Grand Cars Airport. An exclusive summit on luxury tourism will be a limited number of persons, which will be organized and hosted by St. Bart's. The topics of the 30 sessions will vary from friendly skies, liberating airlift in the Caribbean, to regional airport design for a profit-making concept, and from re-energizing destination marketing to training and monitoring to service a demand clientele, U.S. pre-clearance, and there's also air traffic control tower tours at the Princess Juliana Airport. The economic outlook for 2019. Based on the developments of the first quarter of the year, the economy of St. Martin is projected to experience positive economic growth when compared to 2018. The island's gross domestic product, GDP, is projected to experience a growth of approximately 7% for the year 2019 when compared to 2018. For an economy which is mainly driven by tourism activity, the projected continuation of the exemplary performance of the tourism sector through the rest of the year, as well as realizing during the first quarter, would inadvertently trigger activities in other productive sectors of the economy, with further support from the construction, utility, and transport sector for this year. It should be noted, however, that the production levels of 2019, even though are estimated to be higher than 2018, are still below the pre-Irma level of production. For the first quarter of 2019, stay-over arrivals increased by 142.1% when compared to the same projected period of 2018. Therefore, actual stay-over arrivals increased from 35,496 visitors to 85,937 visitors. This trend is projected to continue throughout the year, considering more airlifts to the country will become available. Increasing and more effective tourism marketing, proactive event tourism campaign by the Tourist Department, and the expected increasing of hotel room stock during the year. To date, stay-over arrivals for 2019 are projected at 385,139 arrivals. This represents an increase of 118% when compared to 2018. Providing economic trends remains constant, this performance will inevitably boost other sectors, thus leading to the projected growth in the economy. The cruise sector experienced a growth with an increase of 84.4% for the first quarter of 2019. With these growth trends, total arrivals for the year is estimated at 1.7 million arrivals. This will represent an increase in 11.4% when compared to 2018, and as well as stimulate additional activities within the industry. The exports of goods and services are projected to increase due to increasing external demand by approximately 39.6% for the year. This will represent an increase of 527.8 million guilders from trading with other countries. To meet the increase in demand, it is expected that the island's import will increase. This is projected to increase by 7.2% by the year 2019. Lastly, this afternoon I will be attending with some of my colleagues from the Council of Ministers the opening of WINAIR's executive and sales offices, and at this time and ahead of that, I wish to congratulate the entire management, staff and board of WINAIR and look forward to this afternoon's event. At this time, I look forward to any questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Johnson, for your opening remarks. The Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, the Honorable Miklos Gietersen, is at press briefing this morning. However, will not be making any opening statements, but is available for any questions the media may have. We now move on to the question and answer session. Andrew Dick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Good morning to the ministers. Minister Johnson, concerning the economic outlook, the hotels. I know that's what you've been working on for some time now. Are there any more hotels coming online anytime soon?
Thank you, Andrew, for your question. And by the end of this year, we will see that Diamond Resort will be one of those hotels that will be coming online. They give a conservative date of the end of Q4 of 2019. And so we are looking at the end of this year for that property to also open, timeshare resorts and the like. You know, there's also discussion now about the Morgan property, and we've seen that that also too will be coming online. Just a few minutes ago, I was live on PJD2. And again, I want to signal the alarm of the importance of having our hotels open for St. Martin, and that doesn't only transcend through the Council of Ministers, it also transcends throughout our nation. We are in a post-Hurricane Irma recovery mode. Certain processes, certain things must be expedited. Again, like I said a few minutes ago, that does not mean that something should be done irregular or in a legal manner. It just means that there should be more haste in getting things done. There must be that urgency to get the country back on track. And that is something that transcends throughout our country, must transcend in terms of the minds of our people. So again, I want to signal that alarm that we are indeed in extraordinary times. Getting hotels back online is part of the economic recovery outlook for 2019 and beyond. And of course, tied into that is making sure that the airport is ready. So while we have the hotels being on board, we also have to make sure that unilaterally as well, that the airport is part of that restoration as well.
I will allow a follow-up.
Yeah, and just for a follow-up, Planet Hollywood, is everything still on track with that project?
Everything, of course, is on track, and the Minister of VROMI would be able to expound in terms of where that process is now as well.
Thanks for the question. Sorry. The public review for that project recently ended on May 20th. So right now the ministry is gathering all incoming queries and you know, objections, if there are any. I'm not sure if there are on that project. So we are in the process of that phase right now.
Thank you, Minister. Stephen Cerulean of PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Ministers, good morning. My question is for the Minister of TR, Stuart Johnson. Minister, St. Martin has been playing host to several conferences as of late. You made mention of the aviation meetup conference to be held soon. The gaming industry conference is coming up. You also recently had the wet hurricane conference here as well. SMART, the regional trade show press conference, was also deemed a success. My question to you is, how much was made available by both sides of the island, meaning Dutch and French, to ensure that SMART produced the success that it did? It did.
Thank you, Stephen, for the question. And if I look at the different conferences, the different events that we've hosted, and that is, again, the vision of making sure that we offset our tourist season way beyond the end of after the carnival celebration, that we extend St. Martin into being a year-round destination, not only a seasonal destination. Part of that SMART considerations, and again, it's time for us to even expound on the opportunities that SMART can create in terms of the buyers and sellers in the industry. Does it capture the number of persons that we need? Are we getting that bang for our buck, so to speak? That is something that going into the coming years, we need to expand that vision, be able to bring in more industry partners throughout the world and making sure that SMART captivates what it needs for St. Martin. Was it a success? Now, coming back online, having been absent last year, definitely. That MOU that was signed between the Dutch and French side supports events like that. But in general, that is something that we need to look at. And the exact figure that was projected and pledged for SMART, I will give you right after this broadcast, for sure.
Thank you, Minister. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to our ministers that's present today. Question to Minister Lee. Minister Lee, the emphasis have been put on the mental health for sustainable health for people that have been abused by consuming illegal substance and so forth. Minister Lee, there are a lot of young men. I have encountered a lot of them on the street of St. Martin that badly need help. In your meeting, did you discuss on that area? A lot of people, the guys them have been homeless because of their condition. The parents put them away, and that only make their situation worse. It hurts sometimes, Minister. You're gonna hear I using this word a lot of time. The stinge. You know, just yesterday I met one coming from Colby. I get some lunch and stop and give it to him, you know. So a lot of time, people forsake them. And can you give these people, make some hope for them, Minister Lee?
Thank you, Lyndon. Certainly the status of, for example, institutions like Turning Point is a critical part of our psychosocial strategy, how we're developing it. The treatment of substance abuse is obviously a critical part of what from a public health perspective, what we're looking at. So there is definitely that focus. I think that also is incorporated in the proposal for a new building, makes facilities available for that. One of the problems that the Mental Health Foundation has now is their facilities are too small. It doesn't have the ability to cater to all of that. Also, that some of the people that you're referring to may have links with justice issues, which is why we want justice involved in the committee as well. So it's definitely part of the vision going forward, and certainly until then, it's still a focus for the ministry and for the Mental Health Foundation.
Thank you, Minister Lee. We now move on to the second round of questions. Andrew Dick, you have the floor.
Minister Lee, concerning the hospital, of course, the construction, what's the latest? I know the groundbreaking took place last year. So is there an update on the project? How far are we?
Thanks, Andrew. The Hospital issued a press release not too long ago, I think 2 weeks or so about. There was a meeting with all of the lenders, the construction company, the ministry, everyone with their legal advisors. So the due diligence process has been more or less completed. This is a process independent of the ministry. This is really an issue where the lenders need to be comfortable with the next steps. So they wanted to understand exactly what is the process. There was discussions about what additional guarantees, how the process under the Italian law would impact the stability of the company. I think my sense is that everyone is feeling comfortable, but they need to complete that discussion. And then the lenders need to check with their boards for approval. So they're in that process, but I'm hoping on a very short basis that all of the issues will be clear and move forward.
Thank you, Minister Lee. Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
Thank you again. My question is for Minister Gitterson. June 1st is quickly approaching. Hurricane season starts on Saturday. What we've noticed, though, is the fact that there are a number of dilapidated buildings around town, especially in the Phillipsburg area. For example, the old government building and the post office. What's been done to at least safeguard those buildings to ensure that they are not a danger to the community in case of a hurricane?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Cerulean. About 3 weeks ago, I had a conversation with the head of Rick Martina facilities, and he assured me that they are going to take one more walkthrough through the old government building, because there were some files still in there, believe it or not, but in a secured part of it, and also the post office. So the Department of Facilities is preparing for this. Concerning other buildings around the island, the inspection department will be tackling that. Well, they started already tackling those situations, visiting homeowners and regulating with them, because a lot of the dilapidated buildings would have to be demolished at the owner's expense, and if ROMI have to do it, it would also be at the owner's expense. So we are in negotiations, I must say, with landowners for these dilapidated buildings throughout the island.
Thank you, Minister. Lyndon Brown, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Johnson. Mr. Johnson, recently there was some inconsistency with the Carnival Foundation. What was your finding? Is the finance, is it straight now, Minister Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. As you know, the audit is still pending, and of course the government of St. Martin will meet with the SCDF, and as we look at the decree, Article 3.9 of the decree speaks quite clearly of what is the obligation of the parties involved. All records, all books, all financials must be provided in terms of the accountability from the SCDF to the government of St. Martin. So that is something that is ongoing. It has not been finalized as yet. And as soon as that is finalized, the people of St. Martin would surely be apprised of it. And then the discussion of if the foundation can pay for the audit or not would then come up, and if not, then I'm sure the government of St. Martin is more than prepared to do so. So again, I just want to reiterate that again, the feedback from the foundation for me is simply not of a personal note, but for me it's of a professional note, a responsibility of making sure that the people of St. Martin are aware of some things that their tax monies go to, and that it's corrected ahead of 2020 celebration, and most importantly, that everyone benefits of the economic opportunities involved in Carnival, both outside and inside of the festival village. Outstanding bills are paid, and that the general morale of persons are back on track with concerns Carnival. Discussions are already where many major troop leaders are not coming back online for next year. Many persons have signaled that next year that they won't be participating until outstanding prizes have been paid. You know, as a former president of 2011 and 2012, those books were audited, all persons were paid, and even inherited issues were cleaned up. So I don't understand the notion of persons knocking on others' doors for outstanding bills, and making sure that things are in order should be the order of the day for the foundation.
Thank you, Minister Johnson. We now move on to the third round of questions. Andrew Dick, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister of Romy and Minister Lee, concerning the Planet Hollywood project, once again, the rumor of the number of Chinese workers coming in to work on the project. Are there any requests concerning number of workers coming in to work on the project? And have you received any update from the contractor on whether how many workers are needed, and do they have any specialties that they can use here instead of importing workers? Yeah.
So far as I'm aware of, there have been no requests for permits for, as far as I know, any workers related to the project.
Minister Hitterson?
No, thanks for the question, Andrew. I would have to echo Minister Lee. I too have not heard anything about workers. I mean, Vromy just deals with the permit, basically. So workers, we don't really get involved with. Thanks.
Thank you, Ministers. Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
Minister Lee, earlier on you spoke of the training foundation. Can you provide some information as to who is on this foundation, and of course, what is the sole purpose of the foundation? The foundation comprises of whom?
Thank you, Stephen. I'd have to look up the actual, you mean the board composition, who's on the board, for example? I'd need to look it up. Remember, this was a foundation set up specifically for this skills training program. So it started off initially as a discussion between government. It was started by private sector. They took the initiative. Government then agreed to finance the startup portion of it, and then it was eventually taken over the finances by the World Bank via the trust funds. So it has been set up specifically for the management of this skills training program. As to who exactly is on the board at the moment, I'd need to look it up to verify.
Is there any link between...
Stephen, wait, can we get the mic?
Is there any link between NEPA and the foundation? You also said that an MOU has been signed with the university as well. What's the link?
The link.
The link between NEPA and the foundation.
Again, I'd need to verify, but from my understanding, the foundation simply is renting the facilities from NEPA. There's, of course, some synergies there. So, for example, for the construction training course, it was a collaboration with the MIC IT, NEPA, and the Training Foundation. So, but in terms of the legal structures, I'm not exactly, I want to verify it before I say anything. And regarding the cooperation between the USM, again, it's making use of their facilities and instructors for the training courses regarding the English as a second language, culture, and history.
Thank you, Minister Lee. Lyndon Brown, you have the final question.
Final question to Minister Smith. Minister Smith, recently you got a timeline from the Parliament for the school's safety. It is still pending. Do you have a time when you're going to come to a conclusion?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the question. In November, the Parliament passed a motion with regards to safety, a safe school plan, and I have responded with a report to Parliament. The first part of the motion indicated that they would like to know what has been done thus far, so an inventory of all the things that have been done dealing with school safety. I made an inventory of what the department has done in the past years, and quite a lot has been done. And also in that report, I indicated that to make a school safe plan takes much longer than 90 days. And I indicated that it would take at least a year to get a school safe plan prepared, and that a school safe plan would have to be individualized per school. You can't make a general, you can have general policies, but each school would need to have its own, because it has to do with the layout of the school, where the school is located in the community, and so forth. So I have already responded to Parliament, and they have received that report.
Thank you, Minister Smith. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 29th, 2019. For rebroadcast, tune in every evening at 7 p.m. on St. Martin Cable TV. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at www.stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I am Rolika Roach, and do have a pleasant day further.